say everything's okay.
Hello, I'm Alana Levine, host of Little Known Facts. I've always been inspired by people who love what they do. On this podcast, I speak with actors who you love to watch do what they love to do. Little known fact about my guest today. In 2007, this man may have been the secret weapon in settling the Broadway theater strike. Welcome reporter and host of the show On Stage, New York One's Frank DiLella. Welcome.
Hi,
I'm
Alana.
so excited to have the tables turn. I am just going to introduce my listeners to the history of Frank DiLella as I know it. So while in college, Frank DiLella started working at New York One, and now he's the producer and reporter for the weekly program On Stage. You have interviewed everyone from Liza Minnelli to Lady Gaga, from Hugh Jackman to James Earl Jones.
Right.
Quite a wide range of personalities. And for your monthly cable show On Stage Across America, you travel the globe, shining a spotlight on theater productions basically all over the world.
Alana, I'm going to hire you as my publicist.
I am
You're
your
really
publicist. Most recently, you created your own theater talk show called Showbiz After Hours at the infamous New York City nightclub Birdland.
Infamous.
Infamous. So in this interview, listeners, we're going to find out how a young boy obsessed with reenacting Broadway musicals and goes from fan to trusted friend and confidant of Broadway stars, and really an essential part of every Broadway opening night red carpet experience. I like to think of it this way. What Barbara Walters is to the Academy Awards, Frank DiLella has become to the Great White Way. It is my understanding from your younger brother, Chris, that basically he could blackmail you and get you to do anything he wanted you to do just by threatening not to perform in a show with you in your living room. Is that correct?
That's so true.
Right? I have a memory that your first email address was actor rent. Is that right?
You'd be right.
That lets us
You'd
know
be
a little
right.
bit of what a fan you were, particularly of Rent and
Yes.
Idina Menzel and the show that you probably came of age.
Yes. Well, I have to say, it all comes down to my mom and my grandmother. Both of them loved, or my grandmother loved the theater. My mom still loves the theater. When I was 4 years old, I remember going over to my grandmother's house, who has passed. She passed when I was 8 years old. And I would go over to her house. She could play any song by ear on her baby grand piano in her living room.
Wow.
And she was known to hold these fabulous salons in her house. And I remember very early on, I loved spending time with her. And she would have me come over to her house, and we would open her piano bench, and I would find, a chorus line. And her favorite shows were A Chorus Line and La Cage aux Folles. She loved Jerry Herman, Hello, Dolly. So that was that. So that's
Do you remember your first Broadway show?
When I was 4 years old, my mom took me to see Cats, the national tour in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And so again, there are two parts, my grandmother and my mother. So
Jellicle cats come one from all. Jellicles come to the Jellicle
Alana, there's
ball.
a revival. There's a revival coming back, I think.
Meow. That's
Meow.
exciting.
I knew I was on sacred ground being in a theater. So
You wanted to go up the aisles in like a cat suit and like
Oh, I walked away. My mom bought me the cassette tape,
all of it, the
poster, the program. I think I was a cat that year for Halloween.
I hope so.
I was a cat the next year for Halloween. So I blame my mom. I blame my mom, and I also bow down to my mom for introducing me to this world, which I love. Our time to spend with our mom, my brother and I, would spend time with our mom because she'd be on the road all the time. It would be going to the theater on the weekends. And we would get the New York Times every Saturday, and I'd go through the New York Times, seeing what was playing on Broadway. She would give me her credit card, and I would just call
set
up
it
and
up.
order the tickets.
This is Mr. Frank DiLella.
Well, my voice hadn't changed at the time,
Okay.
so I'd pretend I was my mother.
Let me hear it.
Hi, this is Pat DiLella, and I'd like to order 2 tickets for Donna Murphy and The King and I. Can you help me with that?
Good choice.
Good choice, right?
Yes.
I remember going to see Will Rogers Follies and getting like the lasso, the rope that they use, that they sold in the merchandise counter, and the cowboy hats. And we would do these shows in our living room.
So let me ask you this, because while you were doing shows in your living room, there might have been other boys on your block playing football in the backyard.
Yeah, that was a thing. And I remember, especially in grade school, being picked on, saying, Frank, what do you listen to on your Walkman?
Uh-huh.
And I would say, Nirvana's cool, or like, which I love Nirvana.
Right,
I love Kurt Cobain.
right. Right.
But
that wasn't what you were
that's
listening
not
to.
well, maybe a song or two.
At some point, it seems to me, based on your passion, that perhaps you would have pursued this as a career as an actor.
Yeah. Coming to New York, seeing all the amazingly talented people around me, especially in acting class, I knew, I grew up dancing, singing, performing on the stage. But if I was going to make a living in this,
Right.
I had to do something else. And I think the moment that all changed was when I was kind of toying with the fact of switching my major to media studies and with a concentration in journalism at the end.
Thinking you might be a reporter,
Right.
even as early as that?
Because I was always intrigued by reporters on TV. Growing up, my favorite TV show was Dateline NBC,
Yeah.
and 2020. You mentioned Barbara Walters earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, just these greats of the broadcast media world. The turning point, and I'll just get to this quickly.
Yeah.
I was up for a callback for the role of Claude in Hair at the Gallery Players. I'd been doing a lot of stuff outside of school.
Okay.
Because musical theater was my passion, and I love doing musical theater. Fordham is known for its straight
Right.
theater
Right.
or strong play program,
Right.
but it's not a musical theater school like a Michigan or a CCM or Boston Conservatory. So I was up for this for a callback in Hair at the Gallery Players for Claude, and at the same time I put in a request to set up a meeting in regards to an internship with New York One.
That you'd heard about it. Do you remember what you sang for Hair?
Oh, what did I sing? I probably sang
Manchester.
Yeah, no, I had to do that,
yeah.
or I Got Life. I'm not a singer, so I'm not going to sing it. So we'll just skip that part. But anyway, I didn't get Claude.
Right, because you're not a singer.
I'm not a singer, and I got the internship.
What moves me about your story is when I think about you in your living room growing up with such great passion for theater. Luckily, geographically, having a mom who brought you to New York City because Philly was close enough to get there to see Broadway shows, although national tours have become such a huge thing in our country now that people, little boys and girls who live on the outskirts of big cities, can also get to see
Broadway,
Fun Home
Yeah.
in just a few short months from now, which was not how it was always.
No.
But the idea that you are now bringing into the homes via cable this education and entree into the world of theater, straight theater and musical theater, and interviewing all these people who are so impactful for young people, and that kids like you now get to watch something like that, on the weekends is kind of, we had Theater Talk when I was growing up, like on PBS.
Yeah.
PBS was really the only place that you could hear like an in-depth interview with Stiller and Mira.
Right,
Like no
right.
one was interested in anyone who wasn't a movie star or a TV star.
Right. Or like the Sondheim shows.
And when you were growing up, and this might be true, people would, it's not legal, but people, when video recorders became slightly portable before phones.
Right.
They'd literally have like their video recorder, and they would do these bootleg tapes of Broadway shows. And a lot of the first shows I saw were, friends of friends would have these like really hard
On
and
VHS.
and you would see when an usher came because suddenly the camera would go under their seat and then back up.
Yeah.
But now, there are a lot of kids and adults who want to see Hamilton and they can't get in. And what they're finding is it's not as great as seeing, theater is really problematic. It just doesn't resonate on film the way, it's just not built for that.
It's true.
So is it the same as seeing Hamilton on Broadway? No. Can you, if you're listening nonstop to the Hamilton soundtrack, actually watch a kind of fuzzy version of it on YouTube? You can.
Yeah.
And it's free.
It's all there. It's free.
I think what's been really remarkable in your journey of fan to performer to host covering the theater is that you've been invited to perform and do segments on your show as someone on the Broadway stage with different shows. Like you were a Kit Kat boy in the Kit Kat Club in Cabaret, right? And then recently when you talked about like the Andrew Lloyd Webber shows being really seminal for you, that you got to perform on Broadway in Les Mis for like a backstage, like how crazy that you have created for yourself. Do you know what, Frank? You are in a Broadway musical.
Yeah,
and you don't have to go through any of the stress
the audition
and pain
process
and rejection. You're like, would you like me to cover your show on my show? Let me be in it.
Let me be.
It's almost payola.
It's crazy.
Do you know what payola is?
Yes, I know what payola is.
You're doing
I'm
the
a
same
journalist.
thing.
Ah.
Do you want Les Mis on stage? All right. I'd like to be.
I'd like to be in it. No.
I like Epinil. That's so wild that that's happened for you.
It's crazy.
And so when you're on Broadway, on a Broadway stage, fully costumed as a revolutionary in Les Mis, one of the first shows you saw, a soundtrack you could do.
I know the whole.
You could do
I
a
know the whole
drunk
score
backwards
Exactly.
perfectly. You could be unconscious, and they could be like, "Wait, I just have to sing one more."
I dreamed a dream.
Right. What was that like for you?
Oh my gosh!
So crazy.
It was so cool.
I know what we'll do. We're gonna have this backstage thing for our viewers, and I'm gonna get to be in it.
I'm gonna be in it, and
Hey,
you
I'm the
can all
producer.
watch.
Let me pitch it to me. Yes, I am.
So, we went back and forth, and the Les Mis folks, they were so gracious, and they're like, well, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I was like,
Right.
oh, okay. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, I went, I had my costume fitting. They're like, we have you in 5 scenes. I was like, 5 scenes? Whoa.
And then you're like, can you take it in a little
Yeah,
bit?
take it in
I
a little.
think this character's a little slimmer.
Yeah, he's a little slimmer. So they talked me through.
Right. Were
And
you nervous when you
I
had
was
to go on?
so nervous.
Terrified.
I was probably in the show for about 30 minutes.
Right, that's a lot.
It was a lot.
By the way, that's more than almost anyone on the planet has been on Broadway in Les Mis.
Yeah.
Just by the way. So literally everyone is clamoring to be interviewed by you. Tell me about your first one. You got to keep like crazy fan Frank in check. I'm like, I'm a professional interviewer right now. We're inside. You're going, oh my God, it's Liza! Like, right? Like,
It's
how
so
could you
true.
not?
She was one of the first ones.
Right.
So in 2005, I showed up with a shooter and we were doing interviews. So Idina Menzel, I've admired for so long.
Would you say admire or would you use the phrase stalked?
I have a crush on Idina Menzel. There, I said it.
Fine.
And my father would be very proud.
Yes. Relieved.
Relieved.
Maybe relieved
Relieved.
is the word. Oh, you see? See? I mean, he has a crush on Idina Menzel. It's fine. It's all fine.
It's all good. So I interviewed her, and I just, oh my God, just thinking to myself when I was interviewing her from the original production of Rent, which I saw in '96, and just kind of blew my mind. Actor Rent, hello.
Yeah.
And then they put me in a room. They literally locked me in a room with Liza Minnelli and Ben Vereen.
And threw in steak.
And
Just
threw in
some
steak,
raw
threw
meat
in
on the
steak,
floor.
and a bottle of water.
Yeah.
With this camera person, and I remember they closed the door, locked it, and said, "Okay, interview them." It was intermission of the benefit, and I was like, "Okay." So obviously nerves were taking control of me, and I was super nervous. But I remember Ben just saying, yeah, we're doing this for the people. We're doing this for the people. And the only thing I can remember from that interview is Liza, and God bless her, because she really is truly a magnificent woman. She kept saying, but honey, the kitty cats, honey, the kitty cats. Ben, yeah, the people, but the kitty cats in New Orleans, the kitty cats. And she kept saying the kitty cats.
Right.
And I was like, what? Like, oh my gosh.
She loves animals.
She loves the animals. She
was
was worried about the kitty cats. And then she said to me, when is this interview going to air? And I said, it's going to air tonight when we get back to the station. And she said, Frank, write something down. And I said, what do you want me to write down, Liza? And she said, write down my address. And I said, why, Liza? She goes, because you're going to drop this interview off. You're going to make a tape for me. And you're going to drop it off to me at my house on Monday. And I think it was a Sunday. And I was like, are you kidding me? So going back to my brother, who I know you pre-interviewed for this, or you screened to get some fun facts out of him on me. Chris and I had an obsession with Liza Minnelli growing up as well. We could probably perform the entire Liza Live at Radio City for you if you wanted.
Okay.
My brother would be all the Demon Divas, which were Liza's backup girls, and I would be Liza, of course.
For my birthday, do you think you guys would do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Get us a stage.
Done.
And we're on.
And we're
with
the kitty cats.
With the kitty cats. We'll bring the cat. We'll bring the cast of cats. See, it's full circle,
God.
Alana. You
my
can
God.
sing memory.
It is a big birthday. That would be awesome.
Done. So
now you're
I have her address. I'm shaking.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me right now? The next day, I skipped class because I was still in school, and I remember walking. I was like, I'm not taking the subway. I'm not taking